like it's all pretty good. All right, can't hear any sound. Okay, hi everyone, Stan from VSA Solutions, and today having a chat, we have my mate Justin from Emergination. Justin and I have known each other, well over 10 years, and Justin operates in the same sort of space as VSA Solutions, very much with the SMEs as well. So I thought it'd be interesting to have a chat, see what he's seeing out in the marketplace, and maybe get some tips from him. So Justin, can you hear me?
I can, Dan. Thanks very much for the opportunity to chat with you this morning and with the people on the stream.
Good to see you. You're working from home, even though you have a jungle background, which, by the way, I know is fake.
It's not fake at all. That is, I took a photo off my balcony, you know, and that's.
Mate, you need a chainsaw just to trim that balcony out.
Yeah, I know, but I spotted that kookaburra, right? So I thought I'd take a happy snap, and that green thing in its mouth, I think's a worm or something. It was just interesting to see how it hunted and caught its kill. Yeah,
well, it's impressive, mate. That's the way everyone's got an interesting background motive going on these days. Yeah. Anyway, listen, most of the VSA Solutions audience will, as you know, will either be a sponsor, temporary workers, or they'll be employing international students or backpackers or anyone that needs a visa, or there's potentially people who are, thinking of coming through. So, I mean, you know our audience, you've spoken to the VSA Solutions team, all of whom are working from home at the moment. And I must say, a couple of them are loving it. I think we're going to struggle to get them back into the office, to be honest. But mate, what are you seeing in your landscape? I'll give us a quick 30 seconds about Emergination for those people that don't know you, and then tell us what you're seeing out there.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dan. So Emergination was developed, the name came about trying to help businesses emerge from the pack, imagine a better future and vision for the business that gives them the inspiration and motivation for the perspiration they need to bring it together. So that's the way that the name came about. We do strategic planning, business coaching, advisory work for typically small and mid-sized businesses. A lot of it's business to business. We've done work in most sectors, from agriculture, in a lot of industrial technology, all of those sorts of areas. A lot of the stuff that we do is around positioning, sales and marketing, planning, getting the teams right, and so on. And we've seen some really fantastic success over the 11 or so years that I've been in business. I went into business around about the time we met, actually. So
yeah, that's right. I think we were doing the AICD course, mate, back in the day.
Yeah, way back then. So really good stuff. I recently did some presentations on governance for AICD in Albany and Bunbury.
They're a great organisation, and the responsibilities on directors these days are enormous.
So one of the things I've just recently done is a series of 4 webinars for the Small Business Development Corporation around COVID-19 planning for SMEs. And there were a few themes that came through that. One is you need to be thinking about your COVID-19 battle plan. I've got a link that's available on my website under the free resources that people can just jump on if they would like. It's an easy download, which gives them a quick checklist on things that they should be thinking about. So please don't hesitate to just jump and grab that.
Yeah, we'll share your website details a bit later on. We'll get Lyndon, who does the editing, to sort it out. Yep.
Cool. So that's available. But one of the things that I think businesses should be thinking about is high, medium, and low impact scenarios. So I got owners to think about a good old-fashioned pestle analysis, thinking about political, environmental, social, technical, economic, and legal impacts, and think about high, medium, and low impacts on the business across all of those areas, which enables you to quickly work up some different scenarios and think about how that might impact you. For example, we've seen a number of areas around particularly legal impact and restrictions of what you can and can't do. And I expect we'll possibly see some more of that. From an economic perspective, we've seen the conversation over the last few days, last 24, 48 hours, talking about a V-shaped impact on the economy. So basically what that's saying is that we're going to get a massive dip, which we're experiencing, and then there's going to be a fairly significant jump out the other side. So businesses need to be ready for that jump.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
nobody has a crystal ball to work this out. I saw a gag recently about somebody saying that his crystal ball was only predicting really cold winters, but discovered he'd actually bought a snow globe instead. So, you know, the reality is, I think, is that we don't know what the timing of this is going to be, but we do know that the economy will recover. It's just when.
Yeah. But mate, all businesses have all got different setups, haven't they? It doesn't matter, you know, different industries will have different cost structures. And this, during my time as an economist, you know, I was about 15 years, I was an economist, and I don't think I ever used the term businesses are going into hibernation. This is a new construct as far as I can tell. And, you know, it conjures images of, oh, we're just going to go into deep freeze and we're going to come out the other end and it's all going to be there. That's actually not true. You've got costs that are being incurred and burned while your revenue is zero. There are some businesses that can, you know, scale down and then easily scale up, but I don't think that's, you know, in my experience, man, I don't think it's the majority of them. I think they will scale down, they'll get rid of their people, the costs will accumulate with the landlords, and then we'll start to come out of this. Yes. If they can come back, they've got to work out how they're going to finance it. I know the banks are all going to be very friendly. And then when you do start to get some revenue, mate, it's going to be a trickle before it starts building. So, you know, even if this takes 3 or 4 months to go through, you're talking about a 12-month period before you'll get to anything like the kind of revenues that businesses were seeing before.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Dan. I think there's three levels of impact we're seeing on business. We're seeing one set of businesses that are really busy. So if you take, I just dropped my push bike in for a service, picked it up. I broke a spoke on it, right? So yeah, so anyway, I was doing my well-practiced middle-aged man in lycra, my mammal impersonation, and I broke a spoke. So maybe I need to get a bit fitter or a bit lighter or something. But anyway. I asked the bike shop, I said, how are you guys going? And they said, we're going fantastic. We've just sold 6 great bikes, doing really well. There's other places, IT, a lot of places doing really, really well. Some of them are going to have surges, a bit like grocery stores and toilet paper. Well, they'll have huge surges and then they will be stuck for ages. So you've got those at the top level. You've got mid-level businesses that are still going along okay, or maybe drop 10 or 20%, right? But still can survive. And then you've got that third group, which you were talking about, the hibernation businesses. Now, you're absolutely right. You cannot cryogenically freeze a business and expect it to come back out. The JobKeeper stuff is helpful, but I've seen a couple of businesses that are good businesses that are worthy and deserving of being able to get the packet, but they're just not. They don't quite meet the eligibility criteria for various reasons. So there are some issues around managing way through that and how you might go and apply for exemptions to cover certain circumstances. Yeah, there's a business around the corner from me, a guy who put 7 years of savings into his business. He's been running less than 12 months, doesn't qualify for JobKeeper. I walked past yesterday, he's shut.
It's a bit sad when you see that, isn't it, mate? It's very sad. Yeah,
and so there's plenty of people that are in a world of pain. Now, what does that mean for those businesses that have gone in that are a bit stronger, got a good plan in place, a bit of cash reserve and some of those sorts of things? Well, it's an opportunity, isn't it? Because they might be able to find distressed assets to buy. They might be able to, you know, find some different opportunities. They might find some customers that can't be serviced by competitors. There's some potential upsides there. I think that one of the other things we talked about during one of the webinars was cost and waste reduction. So we use an 8 wastes identification model, which is based on the lean production model that was implemented by Toyota, looking at things like, transport and a range of different defects and operational issues and those sorts of things to look at ways of making businesses more efficient. This is a good opportunity and a good breath, a pause for breath for people to think about their business models and how they can change them. And a lot of people saying, "I just go online." Well, some businesses you can't just go online.
It's hard to give a haircut online, mate. I've tried; it just doesn't work.
Yeah, well, like I'm in the same boat. For the first time, I've done a DIY. I've worked out I don't need to go back.
Yeah, I tried to get a virtual massage the other day. It didn't work either. I still had that same pain in my shoulder, mate. I don't know what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, been there. I know exactly the. It's like it's as good as a steam-powered television.
Mate, I mean, this is the thing, right? There's a ton of industries. The pubs, the clubs, all of the retail outlets. They need foot traffic, right? I mean, it's the concept of going online just doesn't apply for some people.
I think they'll be the first ones that come back. And when I say come back, I think they'll be the first one amongst the first ones where there is a social distancing built into some of their operations. Now, if you think of, just before we got into lockdown, my partner and I went out for dinner, and we went to a place not far from you, and drove past and went, "That joint's chock-a-block. You cannot do social distancing." So we went to a different place that there was plenty of room, and we're able to do social distancing really easily. Now, this is like several weeks before it became a big thing. The challenge for businesses is, can they still make $1 with half the number of people in there?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, because that could be a permanent feature of when we come out of the V, is social distancing is going to be a bit more prevalent. It's a bit like, after we went through the 9/11, security just got beefed up around the world, right? So, so how does that's a good example, Justin. How does a restaurant have, let's say, half the number of people they can get in there sitting down? I mean, surely you're not suggesting they're going to double prices.
No, you've got to try and work out how you, and it's a frustrating thing because often labour is one of the biggest costs.
Yeah, labour and also the rent. I mean, if you see it all the time. You see it more in Sydney, where rents are more expensive. In Sydney, you walk into some restaurants, mate, and the tables are jam packed. And they're trying to get that table turnover as quickly as possible, which is why the service is so good, because they're trying to get you fed, watered, and out. But I don't know. Focusing on that, that's a good point. If you were running a restaurant, what would you be doing?
I think there'd be a few different things. I'll be trying to go, right, who's a loyal clientele that I can continue to service in some different ways. I'd be looking at how I probably strip out some of the furniture in the restaurant so I can get people comfortable with the amount of space. I'd change the hours of operation. So, like a lot of restaurants, they basically, dinner's sort of 6 to 8 and that's it, and they shut early. I think you could try and say, look, let's advertise a there are some cultures and some locations where eating till quite late at night is quite normal.
Yeah, well, that's right through Europe for sure, man. Yeah.
So I was thinking, France, wherever, that's very, very common. So you then change that, and then you change possibly some of the type of entertainment, and then you might look at trying to get some dispensation from council to go, look, we want to come back. We need to be able to have enough tables to make that work. Give us some room on the footpath. You put some tables out there, get the right level of distance in, and that kind of stuff, and then probably some petitions and things to make sure that pedestrians are walking around and that kind of stuff. So I think that there's and people have got to try and think a little bit differently and creatively.
Mate, have you noticed at my local IGA and a ton of the other sort of shopping centres, I go to put my groceries through, and there is a giant perspex screen between me and the person. And these have all just gone up in the last couple of weeks, mate. You know, it's like wasn't there before. From what you're saying, I wonder whether you and your partner will sit down for dinner, and bang, all these perspex screens come up. So you actually don't need to change the distancing because you've actually got a physical barrier. The guy next to you, the next table coughs, but who gives a shit? You know, he's on the other side of that barrier. I don't know. That sounds ridiculous, but is it possible? I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's an idea I didn't think of, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes like you think of a lot of British pubs have got all those nooks in them.
Yeah, that's where you go there, right? You want to feel comfy, cozy. Give me a bevy.
Exactly, and you've got nearly. If I think of a couple of those places that are like that, you've got probably 1.5 meters across the table. So you can get 4 people in one of those. You've kind of you've almost got that distancing built in. You got 1.5 meters between each of you, and so on. We're still at that point now where social distancing is one person only, or it's family.
Yep.
Right. So if it's family, it's you don't have to be sitting 1.5 meters apart. So that helps, but yeah, I think there'll be an area that's interesting, and then you're starting to see people trying to do takeaway options and that kind of stuff. I think people just need to be but here's the thing. I see where I'm in Perth, I see loads of people on push bikes delivering Uber Eats.
Yep.
Now, call me old-fashioned, but I would have thought that if you want something that's going to spread COVID around easily, it's got to be somebody on a push bike with Uber Eats, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. What do you mean? How that?
Well,
it's all contactless, mate. They leave it on the they leave it hanging off the front gate.
Well, true, but if somebody's got it, if it's contactless, if they're wearing gloves, fine, but they don't. If they leave it off the front gate, they've touched the box. If it's plastic, it's on there for a bunch of hours. Somebody was telling me, I'm not sure if it was our discussion actually, about the US, where anything's delivered, it's full hazmat. Like it's whatever it's whatever's delivered, whatever the layer it's in when it's delivered is completely. If somebody comes out in a hazmat suit, completely cleans it, takes that covering off before it goes in the building, comes in the building and they clean it again. So
I guess, yeah.
The interesting thing, of course, is like we've been, in the conversations we've been having recently, is how the number of people dying is actually low in Australia. I don't know that it's low anywhere else, but I don't see anybody doing any graphs saying, look, let's compare deaths via COVID to standard flu. And I think also, there's understated stats in Australia around this too.
I had a look. It's a bit morbid, but I had a look at the deaths from the flu in Australia. Last year we had 900 Aussies passed because of the flu, and the year before that we had 1,100. And at the moment, correct me if I'm wrong, as of today, Thursday, 16th April, we've had 65, 67, something like that. And mate, you look at what the response has been. The response has been to shut down the economy. And you've got the question of the effects, because it's mortality, people are dying, even if it's a small number. But shutting down the economy, mate, that's got massive social implications. Massive social. Australia's still got one of the highest levels of household debt in the world. And it really doesn't make any difference whether you've got JobKeeper or JobSeeker. JobSeeker, you get a lower amount of money that's not taxed, but you're out of a job. JobKeeper, you're getting a little bit more, which is taxed, equates to the same sort of amount. But you got no work to do anyway, because the business has got no work. And so it's like you're either unemployed in a job, or you're unemployed and lining up at Centrelink. I just think the economic costs are going to come. You're going to come home to roost, mate. They really are. Might take a bit longer, but whereas we've had 65, 67 deaths, something like that. We do need to protect the older population. There's no question, I think, that it is adversely and disproportionately affecting older Australians. I mean, everyone would have to see that, when you come down to the numbers. It's a difficult discussion, isn't it, to talk about mortality? Nobody wants to talk about death.
Funny that.
You just don't want to cover it, right?
Yeah.
And certainly don't want to talk about the numbers, because that sounds like a harsh, non-sympathetic. Do you know what I mean? It's got that tone about it.
Yeah. Well, it's got that. You take Trump. He's basically going, look, let's just look at it as the P&L perspective. Some people are going to die, right? There's some hospitals that are going to charge their fees to people that are going to be in it. They're going to, the revenue's going to be up.
Yeah.
And the sooner this whips through and kills the people it's going to kill, and we can all get back to normal. It's really
that's the approach he's taken. He really has. He's been he loves to simplify stuff, which to be honest, I reckon that's probably one of the reasons he ended up being president. He appeals to a lot of people with very simple, even if the answer's wrong, it's still simple and easy to understand.
And there is at no point, I mean, the confidence the man has, I just think he's actually missing an empathy gene.
Empathy gene? Mate, he's had money his whole life. He doesn't need to be empathetic about anything.
Well, and there's a study done that indicates those people that are wealthy have much lower levels of empathy. If you're out of a job and you're begging on sitting on a street corner, the person that's going to give you money is the person that's pulled in 25 grand for the year themselves. And the reason being is that they go, there for a bit of luck, go I. Here mate, take $20.
Away you go.
If somebody walks past that's earning $250,000, they don't even see him.
Yeah, no, that's
no
right.
empathy, at all.
See it way too often.
And that's the reality. So I was watching a show last night, which was showing the Donald, flying his 757 over the top of his golf course in Scotland. Right,
Okay.
this is a little while ago, but that's just like there's no. How can you have empathy for anybody? I mean, I've got 3 of my mates own golf courses and jets. How can you have any empathy for the common man? And what's the standard message that these guys put out? They go, life used to be better. Well, the only reason why we think life used to be better is because that's the way our memory works. We forget the bad stuff and we only remember the good stuff. We don't remember when measles was a really bad thing that lasted ages, because it's largely eradicated, and tuberculosis and AIDS and all of these things that are
polio. There's been a whole bunch of them, mate. Absolutely,
so there's let's imagine that life back in the 60s when things were so much better and so much easier. Well, that's just a romantic notion. Let's all go back to hand washing machines. There's so many things that are
nostalgic, mate.
Exactly.
Remember the old hand washing machine? You used to have the wringer. I remember those.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to.
All right, so from Emergination, if you're talking about Emergination, which is a very appropriate name, by the way, for as we come out of the V. Give me 5 tips for the business owners out there who might be listening to us about how are they going to emerge after the V's come through, gone through some tough times, got to rebuild. What do you get? What are your tips? Give me 5.
Okay, first tip, an obvious tip, look at your cash flow. Make sure that you are looking at your cash flow and you're looking at every cost and seeing if you can do without it. One of the things that's fantastic that we've learned about this process is that there's loads of costs that you don't need, and working virtually actually can really work. You know, so you could for many people, they could achieve a same quality delivery with 30% less office space.
True.
Right, so, or no office space, right? So that's the first thing. So think about cash and think about all your costs, and then making sure that you're conserving your cash and managing your timing. 2, talk to all your clients. Let them know you're still in business. Let them know what you're doing to manage COVID-19. Let them know what you're doing to keep them safe.
Yep.
Right. So make sure that you're continually talking to clients, and they know that you're positive and you're upbeat and you're making sure that they're okay. Talk to your suppliers. Your suppliers want to know that they're still going to get paid, that you still value the relationship. And suppliers might be able to help you out in a jam too. You know, some of them may be able to offer attractive trading terms or product deals, or, you know, a range of different things, because everybody's got to come out together.
Yeah,
so
you'd include your landlords in that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
You must have conversations with landlords at the moment. And I saw there was a chap that was apparently billionaire property holder who was basically saying, look, you know, they need to eat their capital first rather than me. We go, well, you're not going to get much sympathy. That's when you'll see government intervene, as we have seen. So
the
definitely
government will intervene if it's big. It's very hard for them to intervene at the small end of town. There's, you know, what is there, 1 million small businesses in Australia, something like that?
I was on a call a week ago where we had Vince Connolly, Lisa Harvey, Mark Irwin, who's the mayor of City of Stirling, and another chap, Paul. I can't think of his last name.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I don't know who these people are. Anyway.
Oh, so Lisa Harvey's the leader of the WA opposition. Mark Irwin is the City of Stirling mayor. Okay. Vince Connolly's the member for Stirling, Liberal member for Stirling. So they're politicians. So you've got to let them know if you've got some issues, talk to them, so that they're taking the right stuff upwards and not only hearing from the big people that have got, you know, PR hacks in place. Because you know, the little stories are important. And you know, you take Lisa Harvey, she's a business owner herself, you know, so she, you know, understands it. You know, Mark Irwin was a business owner as well, so he's worked his way up. So there's these people that do have empathy for small business. You've got to go and talk to them and just make sure that they're staying focused in the right areas, and understanding also if any of the packages have got unintended consequences. So communication's really really important. The third of my 5 would be, when the going gets tough, the tough go marketing. Don't stop marketing.
That's what happens. They stop marketing and all of a sudden you really do have a recession.
Absolutely. So I don't know what you've been doing, Dan, but I know you're a really good operator, and I've been watching the comms that you've been sending out. So I know you've been maintaining and lifting the activity, which is the right thing to do. I've certainly been talking to a lot more people regularly, and then trying some different things from a digital reach out perspective as well.
This is something that's new for us. You know, we a lot of people are doing it, but I think this sort of stuff is going to take off moving forward. Yeah,
just be mindful though. You know, I was in a call this morning with our District 32 friends, and I just asked everybody to put their hand up.
Hi, Dean. Hi, Lorraine. How are you? Just in case they're watching.
Yeah, so I just asked everybody to put their hand up if they'd had a webinar invite this week, and so everybody's doing this. And I went, that's over an hour long, and they're all doing this. And I said, okay, who's had 5 of those? And they're all doing this. And, you know, who's had 8 of those? And they're all doing this, you know. So we're going to get burnt out with webinars. So we have got to think about how we manage calls more tightly, more effectively. Interestingly, one of the conversations that I was having with Dean about this was with Dean Keating from District 32, was he's finding that his sales calls are much more time effective. So instead of an hour, it's 35 minutes. Instead of him having to drive 20 to 30 minutes to make the call, each way, he eliminates his travel and he doesn't have to pick up all the coffees.
Mate, I've got to tell you, the travel time is way more costly than the coffee. Because your coffee you can buy at $4 a cup. By the time you take into account your travel time, you've got to park. And Dean's a great example at District 32 because he spends a lot of time wearing out his shoes, getting to meet with people, and he's very good at it. But I can imagine he probably has 40% more time available now than what he had before.
Absolutely. So that's interesting. So just make sure that your marketing activity lifts, and be conscious that this is relationship building time rather than just pure product flogging time, because when we get out of this, the relationships we build now will be really important for the future sales that we make in 6 to 12 months from the V, when we get out to the other side of the V.
Yeah. All right, mate, quickly, let's wrap it up. Give me 2 more, quick.
Oh, haven't you got enough? I would have thought that'd be
3. Well, 5. Okay.
5.
You said you were going to deliver on 5. I want 2 more.
Two more hot tips. So make sure you've got the marketing activity going real. Stay positive and look after your mental health. So get an app like Smiling Mind, all that kind of good stuff to make sure that you're looking after your mental health, and think about your team. Right.
Yeah, if you can't do it without them.
If you can reach out to your team, customer, suppliers, and just say, hey, look, you're important to me. I'm recommitting to you. This is what I'm doing. This is my plan. And just a final tip: buy Atomic Habits. Right.
Buy what?
Good. A book called Atomic Habits.
Oh, okay, I don't know that one. Okay.
Right. Do yourself a favor, go get it. It's basically, it talks about how you create good habits, how you maintain good habits, and how you build, and also how do you eliminate bad habits. What are the triggers? What are the cues that make you focus on good habits and daily routines? Because when you're working from home, you must have really good routines so that you feel like you're working, you're productive, you're mentally healthy, you're in a good space. And without routines, that's really hard.
Mate, that actually really hits that's something that's come home to roost for me this week. And I've realized that I'm just getting into a home pattern rather than being in a business pattern. And it's because, I'm at home all the time, right? But that's a good one. No, that's a really good one, for sure.
And then final, just a thing, if everybody is interested. So Emergination and our partners Mindshop are offering, we've got a heap of online courses available. We've got 14 online courses available in all sorts of things, from leadership, problem solving, sales and marketing, a whole bunch of things like that. They're normally $200 each. They're online courses. We're offering 2 free to anybody that needs them. Business owners, leaders, you can have a half dozen people in a business do them. Just go to the online training page on my website, fill in the form, and I'll make those available to you. So that's
good on you, mate. No, that and your stuff and Mindshop stuff is very good. I'm a big fan of James and what those guys put out, and that's a very generous offer. No, that's excellent.
Yeah, cool.
All right, listen, we're going to. I'm just going to switch off the YouTube live now, so I'll wave off to everyone. See you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you're there, Justin, mate, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Absolute pleasure.
And you and I both got to rush off to a highly important coffee catch up.
Looking forward